Hello, we will be discussing your solution to one of the questions that you answered during the assessment. Can you walk me through your thought process for the rating controller class? You're coming through a bit choppy. Could you repeat that?
One of the questions that you answered. Yeah. Yeah, sure. So basically, in the REST controller, we have taken the entity as a ratings, and in that one, we are providing the different CRUD operations. One is the creating the rating, and then one is the get rating by the ID, and then one is the get rating for finding the all of the ratings with the product ID basically. For a particular product, all of the ratings will be fetched with the single API. So yeah, create I created the three APIs. One with the for creating the rating. Second is for fetching the all the ratings for a particular product with using the product ID, and third is the for a particular for finding a particular rating using the rating ID. So yeah, this.
Got it. So you mentioned creating three APIs. Can you explain how you handle validation for the input data in your create rating method?
Yeah, for the validation purpose, I use the iterate uh, validation annotations, and also the while I'm taking the input as a in the request as a request body, I'm also using the iterate valid annotations there. So using that annotations, I'm validating the input, and also like I'm using the response entity, so providing the a meaningful method using the http status code.
That makes sense. Can you dive a bit deeper into what specific validation rules you applied to the rating entity? What fields did you validate and how?
So as part of the request body, I use as a ID, right, for fetching the data. So that ID should be valid. So you can say ID is one of them. ID, product ID, and for creating the rating itself, the complete rating entity, I took it as an validation entity. So yeah, these are the three one that.
Got it. So you mentioned validating the ID and product ID. How do you ensure that the rating value itself is within an acceptable range?
Yeah, using the at rate valid annotation, that would be done by that.
You're coming through a bit unclear. Can you clarify how the at valid annotation helps in ensuring the rating value is within an acceptable range?
Yeah, like using the at the rate annotations, what I'm trying to do is something that is integer, right? So it will be in the that range, integer range. That's it.
I see. So you're using the at valid annotation to enforce constraints. Can you tell me what happens if the validation fails? How do you handle those errors in your API?
So any of the validations fail, it will throw an error. So yeah, and throw an exception, you can say.
Got it. So you throw an exception when validation fails. Can you explain what kind of exception handling you implemented for those scenarios?
Uh, so y- uh, yeah, I didn't get much time to implement the exception scenarios, but yeah, we can do using with creating the exception object, and catching it and providing the meaningful manner as a error message we can give.
That's understandable. So, if you had more time, what specific exception handling strategies would you consider implementing?
Uh, yeah, so there can be yeah, as I said, we can create the runtime exception, and catching it and providing the meaningful error message, so that the user will get to know that they need to provide a clear and correct inputs. So yeah, I think that we can do.
That sounds good. Just to clarify, how would you ensure that the error messages are user friendly and informative?
So moreover, we will use the as a user friendly language, so that user will get a more context what we are trying to do, as a very simple and short message we will give, so that they can uh, get what need to do, and what they did wrong, and what how they can correct it.
That's a solid approach. One last thing. How would you test your rating controller to ensure everything works as expected?
So yeah, for that as well, I'm using the at the rate validation annotation at the top of the rating controller itself, like while creating before the class itself, like where we are using at the rate rest controller. There only I wrote at the rate validation, so complete the controller itself will be validated.
I see. So you're applying validation at the controller level. Would you also consider writing unit tests for your service methods? If so, how would you approach that?
Yeah, obviously, like for testing purpose, we can write the test unit test case as well. So yeah, that with that also that would be validated. Correct.
Great. Writing unit tests is definitely a good practice.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts. If you have any questions or need clarification on anything, feel free to ask.